Alrighty, well, we've gotten through the first section of the class of service. I know this is a lot of information to be going through. Hopefully you only have to go through it one time and you'll kind of get the gist of it. But there are two more sections to go, so bear with me and we'll get through this as quickly as possible. So let's move into our call permissions area. You'll notice on the screen now that we have call permissions, and we've kind of given you basic call permissions. We have internal only, we have local only, we have long distance calling, and we have no restrictions. So let's just look at no restrictions as an example. All of them work identically the same way. It's very straightforward. You'll notice there's a radio button for the type of calling, so that makes it very simple. You can have one that says national long distance. You can have one that says national mobile. What that means is some of the mobile numbers have office codes and prefixes that could match an area code, so it's a little bit more expanded than a standard national long distance. So it just kind of tries to incorporate those things. And then we see international calls and all calls. Now I talked to you about the previous session where we would have the ability to set up restrictions and permissions. So if you look here, the way that this really works is you want to restrict them to the least amount of restrictions, or the most amount of restrictions if you, depending on how you're going to set this up. So as an example, if you have two area codes that you want to restrict, you want to give them access to everything else but those two area codes. So what I would do is I would set them up to be local only, and then I would allow just those two area codes in here. So I could do, let's see, +1213, and now I can call any local number and area code 213. So that way you don't have to put in all the area codes. You only put in a couple of area codes you really want them to call outside of their local calling area. Now the way it would work in the opposite direction is, let's say they are set to all calls, but you want to restrict, like it says here, 900. So I put in there +1900, and now they can make any call, but they can't call 900. So again, you're going to look at these restrictions based on what's the least amount of work to put into the system, so you don't have to spend a lot of time. So again, call permissions are pretty straightforward. We're going to go back to the previous page, and we've got most of them set up for you. Again, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one because it's a duplicate. So you can see we have internal, we have local only, we have long distance and no restriction, and then of course you can make a modification. And so let's do that real quick just so you get a general idea. So I'm going to take long distance calling, and I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say long distance calling, and I'm going to put behind that dash no 900. So I'm going to go ahead and own a restriction there, and I'm going to put a +1900, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now we'll go back and look at that list again. And you'll see I've got a new one that says long distance calling no 900. So that would be how you would set up call permissions for any particular user that needs to be calling out, you know, in any specific way that you would like. There's really no restriction in how you want to set this up. Your imagination is really what you need to look for. And again, if you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us and support. Well, 2 down, 1 to go. Last one we're going to talk about in permissions of class of service is voicemail permissions. Again, very straightforward. I'm just going to take one example here from one of the particular permissions that are already set up. So I'm going to go to large mailbox. I'm going to click on it, and again we'll go briefly through this. This is probably the easiest section of the three because it's fairly straightforward. If you look at the first option there, we have incoming message length. How do we change how long? This is how long a person can leave a message in a particular mailbox. And again, you have options from 0 to 3600 seconds. Maximum incoming message. Again, that would be the message coming in from somebody else. So that would be if someone were going to leave how many total messages they can receive in their mailbox. So at this one it's set to 60. Again, the options here are from 0 to 500, so you can bump that up a little bit. Again, that's based on the hard drive space on the server, And again, we'll cover that in the maintenance section of how to look at that hard drive space usage. Usually have a ton of space anyway, so you can bump that up without any problem. And then outgoing message length, this is how long someone, if they're going to record their outgoing message, has to record their greeting. Now we have bumped those up a little bit when you have someone that's recording a message that may have some options in it, like press 1 to go to my Find Me destination, but usually 240 seconds is enough. You'll notice here we can limit passwords, how long a voicemail password can stay in the system. So if you're more security conscious that way, as well as how many days in advance we're going to tell them before they have to change their password. So you can go ahead and do those, and then you can see this is where we're giving them access to the broadcast distribution list. Now, a broadcast distribution list is a group list for voicemail. Think of it in your email, how you can send a message to a group. This is where you would send a voicemail message to a group. They have to have access to that to access those particular groups that are in the system. And then access to system distribution lists. Again, that's the same idea. You always leave those on, and then allow message notification. You're going to want to make sure their light's turning on and everything's notifying the phone. And then allow message notification to external number. That again, that's a setting that they can change in their call manager for their notification. So you can deny that if you don't want them to have that option. And then if you look here, we have the ability to delete saved messages, delete heard messages. Now what's the difference between a heard message and a new message? If you're playing your voicemail messages and you hit the pound sign, or you play all the way through the message but you don't act upon that message, that is a heard message. So you have kind of two folders when you're listening to voicemails through the phone. You'll have new, heard, and then the third option is those saved messages where you've actually pressed the 2 key to save that message. And then the option enable auto delete notification. That's only if, of course, you're deleting those messages. So again, that's pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot. Hey, and we made it through the third section, so we're done with this lesson as well.